each of the four Irving Fellows, starting with me, we're going to be sharing our perspectives and experiences, looking at the past year from our unique vantage point, the liminal space outside the student, faculty, staff trifecta. It's been difficult for anyone to get a coherent or holistic picture of what the GSD is and has been the past year, even more so that we've spent a year primarily relating to each other as avatars on our screens. So perhaps this conversation, with your help, can be a sort of exercise in constructing a composite whole. So in the summer of 2020, the four of us were brought on to assist in the transition from virtual by emergency to virtual by design. We had an initial period of ideation, kickstarting several initiatives across the school, then focused on a series of summer workshops for faculty and the production of a web resource called the Guidebook. The workshops, like the Guidebook, focused on both software and curriculum. We offered introductions to staples like Miro and Modelo, as well as ideas for reframing seminars, lectures, and studios for the virtual paradigm. Towards the ends of maximizing the quality of time spent together online, we recommended leaning on asynchronous course materials. Charles Waldheim and Martin Bechtold generously showcased their development of asynchronous course materials. We also introduced concepts and tools related to social annotation and the possibilities for asynchronous discourse centered around the specific readings of images and texts. We developed tools and recommendations for navigating the wicked problem of time zones, which were extending into the development of a new virtual design discovery program. The Guidebook project was intended to be a central resource addressing a wide array of issues that had been coming up in the spring of 2020. We wanted to avoid reinforcing the separation of technical questions and pedagogical questions. So we resisted the impulse to create a technology resource center and another location for pedagogical discussions. The split screen design of the website dictated that technological questions could not be extracted from pedagogical and vice versa, insisting on a constant juxtaposition of the two. In the spring of this year, the fellows transitioned into exploring a set of more directed and personal research questions with regards to virtual instruction. One of my own interests related to the endurance of physicality in our virtual pedagogy. We were reminded of the delight of receiving something in the mail by Emily Wetstein and Jung Yoon Kim in Landscape Core 1, and as well by the faculty of the second semester Urban Planning Studio, who sent out meticulously curated welcome packages and large format maps to their students respectively. The received physical artifact was a welcome totem of the students' connection to our institution and to each other. But what next? What forms of physical making could persist and what new forms emerged? Had the conditions of model making changed superficially or fundamentally? I interviewed several students, staff, and faculty over the course of the semester with regards to their work to ask some of these questions. There was a common understanding that most functions of models had been displaced by the ultimate function of producing an image. By many accounts, this acknowledgement altered the ethics of craft and material towards something more dioramic and baroque, in which the back faces and hidden corners of models remained unfinished, not for display. We also saw alternative functions like using spaghetti to test trusses and bridges to failure, insisting on the hand cutting of Bristol paper as a way to become familiar with the graphic and topographic techniques of grading, and the production of messy, quick, unprecious models to articulate essential design concepts freed from style or technique. Working from home transformed not only the ends, but also the means of model making. While miniaturized craft versions of our Fab Lab tools, like the Cricut paper cutter substituting for the Zund, proved popular and useful, there was also a surge in hand cutting, back porch casting, and other forms of experimentation using edible materials, found objects, repurposed waste, and other craft techniques, the breadth of which can be previewed on the Fab Labs web forum. Before we all departed last year, the GST was renowned as having an incredibly strong and largely homogeneous model culture. Our design processes now out of sight of the collective gaze of our peers in Gund Hall, we've been liberated to develop personal techniques and methods influenced less by collective intelligence and groupthink, temporarily relieved of the traditions and conventions of the processes of making. We hope that some of the happy idiosyncrasies, inventiveness, and resourcefulness that characterized the past year can continue in some form as we move forward, shedding our isolation.